Hello and welcome to The Bar is Loaded, Bitesize, Episode 3. Today, me and Mr. Roberts here will be discussing Alexei Novikov's monster dumbbell for reps from the weekend. So, first thoughts?
Well, I mean, it didn't look that difficult for him. It looked pretty comfy, and there was a bit of fanning about during the stream that I think we can get into. There was a bit of argy-bargy, but I think this was the first record with 100 kilos, wasn't it? So it's not like he was breaking anybody else's record. He was setting the benchmark, and I'm guessing you've seen Kielszkowski's response.
I have indeed.
Yeah, the next day. So this is possibly a record that won't stand for too long. But it is a brand new record, and new records probably don't really last too long anyway. But yeah, all in all, there was a bit of weirdness about the whole thing, but it was nice to see another proper strongman record that wasn't just a max weight. You know, you're going to see a lot more rep events in competitions than you would a max weight. So it was a little, again, like the stone, it was a little bit more proper strongman. So yeah, that's my take on it. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Like you say, like it was good to just see a strongman event. I think the arsing around just made it a pain in the arse. Like, I'd have thought they'd have been told it was a 6-inch platform from the off. So why they wouldn't have made sure it was a 6-inch platform from like setting it up, I don't understand why. And everyone knows a tire isn't fucking 6 inches. So why you'd thought that was a good idea, I don't know.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of people that claim that blokes don't have a clue what 6 inches is. So we could put it down to naivety, maybe.
There was a lot of blokes, so that was a lot of people to get 6 inches wrong. So there you go. I guess you know. So, but no, I agree completely. Like, you know, the record itself looked easy. Why he stopped at 11? That's a mystery because we've seen it's been beaten the very next day. So
yeah.
No,
well, I think
the
previous record was it something like 98 kilo or something like that, and they kind of just, and that was for like 10 reps.
Yeah.
And he'd kind of just mentally rounded that up to 100, and it's like, okay, well, 98 mentally rounded up to 100. If I hit 11 reps, then that's me breaking that record, rather than, maybe that's the way he was thinking about it. I don't know, but I think because a lot of people were talking about, can he beat 10 reps? Maybe he just wanted to hit. It was always his plan to kind of stop with like a good few seconds in reserve in case he, someone chipped him, beat him by 1, and he's thinking, okay, well, if I hit 11, somebody hits 12, I know I can hit 13.
Yeah.
There could be a few different things going on there, but it was definitely nice to see again on the stream a bit more about Alexei. Not a lot of people know much about him. It's terrifying that he's such a young guy. He's still 23, turning 24. Obviously started very young, very skinny. He was a very skinny boy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
If you watch that video, he was like a twig. So he's put on a lot of size. And all right, how many times did you feel personally victimized by Big Loz every time he said something on the lines of, well, only 6'1", he's not very big, he's not a very big guy, he's quite a small guy. How many times you just like,
yeah, and I feel that's probably why Loz did that video the next day. Did you see that about like short?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, so I feel like that's probably why he did why he was so adamant that 6'1" was short, because he was probably lining up for his next video. But that is a very good video. So if you go onto Big Loz's channel, anyone that's listening and wants to like know decent short lifters, then it's a great video. It's only like 5 minutes long as well, so good video to watch.
Because this is something that we've been talking about for a while, is that there are certain events that being tall is definitely an advantage on, but there are a lot of events where it's just not a factor. And yeah, I didn't realise that his name escapes me now, but the first guy on that list was 5'3". and
Yeah.
that has been the shortest World's Strongest Man competitor. Now, this was a while ago, early 2000s, before we had some of the giants come through.
Yeah.
But even seeing the likes of Darren Sadler, 5'8", the other examples, Rob Kearney at 5'10", so you can be a pro at 5'10".
Yeah. Hit 5'10" as well. 5'10", 5'11".
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So there's nothing to say that just because we've had the 6'9" freaks over the last few years, that the next stage of strongman isn't your kind of shorter, kind of that low to mid 6 foot range, and maybe a few coming through who are a bit shorter. So that was cool. I just thought, all right, Loz, give it a break. I'm feeling like I'm feeling less of a man here.
But the one good thing that obviously he did hammer home was how light Alexi's compared.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously 6'1" and weighs like what, 130, 135?
It was about 130, yeah. So again, it kind of shows that there's a lot of people who use, "Oh, I'm a strong man" as an excuse to really try and push their weight up when maybe that's not going to help them. Having a little bit of exercise on your frame can be beneficial, but there is like a law of diminishing returns,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
guys like Alexei definitely proves that. He's very young, very dynamic, very powerful, and very good technique. And I think these are the qualities that you should be looking to maximize before you're looking to maximize your weight. If you're at the point where gaining muscle is kind of starting to slow down, it's going to take you a lot longer, and you think that by adding an extra 10 kilos to your frame, whether that's fat mass or not, whether that will make you stronger, then fair enough. But I think maximize everything else you can first, and like I say, Alexei's a really good example of this.
Yeah,
um
100%.
but yeah, so there was a bit of fannying about with having to measure the dumbbell on film for Big Z. I'm really glad that they had a local ref do the actual down signals.
Yeah.
What was your thought on that?
Yeah, I think it needed to be because obviously, we saw the delay in the Saltman log attempt.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have a delay like that in something like for reps, especially.
No, how many do you think he would have got? If it was Big Z on the screen giving him his down signals, I think he would have lost a good few reps there.
Yeah, definitely. You'd have easily
Probably about 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. With the breakneck speed he was going, because I mean he was fast.
So efficient as well.
Yeah, perfect technique. Like they said on the stream, like Loz pointed out a few times, if you want to see good circus dumbbell technique, the guys you should be looking at: Novikov, Kielishkovsky. Very similar technique. Almost, well, not identical, but very, very close. Just masters of it, which is why they're hitting those high numbers of reps. But yeah, the delay about I think it was obviously a bit of a language barrier thing going on. Big Z was asking for the diameter of the dumbbell, and they kept measuring like the handle or the circumference of the dumbbell, and it was a bit like, surely these things should have been like the specs should have been sent off to them in advance. And I kind of think, I don't see how they could have agreed to do it without that. So I don't know where that miscommunications kind of come about. But we mentioned it with Luke and having to help the guys figure out what fractional plates to use for his 230 log attempt, and how that could have affected his performance mentally, like taking him out of his kind of prep. The same, I'm glad that we didn't see that with Alexei. Like, it didn't seem to put him off too much because he just let them get on with it. But he almost went for it while Z was kind of saying, "Hang on,
Yeah.
how high is that?" He's like sniffing ammonia and about to pull his headphones off to grab it, and people are having to say, "Hang on, stop." So there was a bit of maybe not as much professionalism as we've seen over the last few streams in terms of the setup. But no, once he was given the go ahead to go for it, everything was business as usual. Like you said, he definitely had the home court advantage this time around, didn't he?
Yeah, 100%. And that's what we discussed in the last one with the predictions was, in that home comfort, so to speak, it was always going to be something he'd do well at. It's home comfort.
100%.
I'd assume probably his own gym, or at least a gym he's very familiar with. That's where Alexi thrives. In like those smaller environments, in those smaller comps. Look at Europe's. It's comps like that he thrives in. It's just, but that's always what we forget is he's still young.
Yeah,
he's still at this level now. Imagine in a year, 2 years when he's got a few more worlds under his belt, a few more Arnolds under his belt. Like it's only going to do well for the kid, and it's scary to think where he can be.
Yeah, that's a very good point. He still does make some mistakes. We've talked about this, the way he kind of competes very regularly, and he's not very selective about the competitions that he enters. He joked that, was it last August, he didn't really train, he just competed because he was hitting a competition every weekend. And it's, I think Thor talked about this, that he, in his early days, he did a similar thing. And there will be guys out there that do this, that compete almost weekly, and it's not sustainable. At least if you're going into a competition half-arsing it and just looking at it as a training session, then okay, maybe you could do it. But trying to do this, going hard every weekend, it takes you a good few days to recover, and then you've only got a couple more days of training before you then have to take a couple of days off. So it's definitely not sustainable. But like we said, he's a very young guy. He started, he got his shot at the limelight last year. 22 years old. Like, this is the time for him to be making mistakes. They made a very good point that Mark Felix didn't compete in his first Worlds until he was 38. The guy's 23. He might be retired before he ever hits that. 38 mark, where Mark Felix started. Ode Haugen, his first Worlds, he was 52.
What a machine.
The oldest, one of the oldest WSM competitors, and absolute legend. So it's cool to see younger guys being able to break their way in. It shows that you can get yourself in there if you train hard enough and take enough drugs and and have but the big thing is the support network, and they showed that if you look at a lot of the pros, a lot of them are sponsored. And those that aren't sponsored have a very good support network around them, and they rely on that. Alexi obviously has a very close family that kind of take care of, that he can kind of hand off his responsibilities to. Like, other people prepare his meals, other people like look after his schedule, stuff like that. You'll see this with Martins. He has his whole crew around him that he has Romark, who is not only his cameraman but also like his personal chef. He'll text Romark, right, I'm coming down for breakfast, have it ready. Us mere mortals don't necessarily have that advantage. I don't know about you, but if I text him saying, right, put my breakfast on, make my lunch, I would be fucked. But it definitely does help having that environment where you can kind of dish out your responsibilities to other people to kind of take care of. I'm wondering how much he has not been lifting a finger the week running up to the dumbbell record and just letting everybody take care of everything for him, which I think is the way to do it. If you're going to do it,
do it that way.
Do that.
And I mean, like, you could see that with all the setup. Like, we saw when it went wrong for Luke had to jump in and help. Like, he had to help load, he had to help reload the log, things like that. Whereas Alexi just stood around, carried on listening to his music, carried on sniffing his ammonia. He had nothing to do with any of that measuring process, nothing. He just left them to it. And I think, that's probably why, as much as there was that gap between his warm-ups and the actual lift, it's probably not played with his mind that much because he's just been in his own little world anyway.
Yeah, I mean, he looked very relaxed. This was another good point made. He's not burning himself out by kind of psyching up too early or getting too psyched up. And I think a lot of people, again, can learn from this, especially on rep events. Like 1 rep max, go crazy, huff ammonia for ages, like get yourself really psyched up because, this is probably something that you have maybe had, typically these are lifts that you've been doing for longer or maybe aren't quite as technical. The dumbbell is pure technique. It's very little about actual strength in terms of pressing, as the point that was made. He maybe actually only pressed 1 rep. A lot of it is punching the weight up, using the legs, and catching it overhead, and not a lot of it is actual shoulder pressing strength.
Yeah.
So if you kind of get over psyched up, the mental arousal is too high, you're gonna make mistakes, which you can't afford to do with a technique event.
No.
So you definitely played it right. I mean, he like they pointed out, he's not an overly emotional lifter anyway, but that definitely helped him with the dumbbell record. If he was going for a max deadlift, yeah, get someone to slap you in the face and kind of do all that. But again, don't do it too early. This is a mistake we see quite a lot. Is guys hyping themselves up too early, and you're just wasting energy. And if you're going for a lift, you don't want to be wasting energy. This is a mistake that a lot of people make. So I think you can learn a lot from watching guys like Alexei, who are a lot more calm, a lot more relaxed, and then just flip a switch. And that's a skill in itself. And this is something that he's probably trained. He's probably, done a lot of AMRAP sets in training where he's maybe had his training partners or whatever, load everything up for him while he's just sat there. It would not surprise me if the entire time he's thought, right, I'm going to go for this record, he's trained like it was the event itself.
Yeah.
Just with much lighter weights. You never know. He may have done a trial run a couple of weeks ago with the 100-kilo dumbbell, maybe stopped around 11 reps and around 8 reps and gone, okay, yeah, I've definitely got 10 to 11 reps in me here, and then just gone, okay, I'm just going to taper down now. But he did stop early. We've mentioned this, so he has got more in the tank, and he's got his technique to thank for that.
Yeah,
100%. So efficient.
Yeah, 100%. Like if you ever want to learn the dumbbell, watch Novikov, watch Kiliskowski, because that punch and catch that they do, and that everyone should do, it's just perfectly executed with those 2 lifters. And I think that sort of the whole stream really gave a lot of people, I think, comfort in many things. So obviously it taught people that, just because you've got to have a long weight doesn't mean that you're going to fuck up. It showed that you don't have to be the tallest. Obviously we laugh that he's still 6'1", but it shows you don't have to be tall. Yep. Again, it shows you don't have to be the heaviest. You don't have to be the oldest, youngest. Like, it doesn't matter what age you start. Like, I think there's a lot of good things that come out of this stream that will give a lot of people confidence that, it doesn't matter that you started strongman at whatever age. It's,
absolutely, yeah.
The world is your oyster if you're willing to put the hard work in. So, and it's the same with anything, powerlifting a lot. It's, if you're willing to put the hard work in, you're going to achieve shit. And, this stream just gave people the confidence, I think, to believe that a lot more.
100%, yeah, totally agree with that. Like you say, powerlifting, you get people who start competing as a masters. They could be any age. You can start competing in your 60s, and there is nothing wrong with that. This is not a young person's sport necessarily. Like, is it great to start young? Yeah. Is it great to start at any age? Yeah, 100%. Like we said, Ode Haugen first competed World's Strongest Man in his 50s. Mark Felix was nearly 40. There is nothing to say that, people could have been watching Strongman for years and just thought, oh, I could never do that. I could never give that a shot. And it's like, you absolutely can. I think a lot of people have this preconceived notion. You say someone come down and do strongman and they say, I'm not strong enough. It's like, even the pros started, some of them may have been genetic freaks who were just naturally much stronger than the average person is. untrained, but they were still not as strong as they are now when they first started training. That is not an excuse to, if you want to give it a go, don't be put off by kind of thinking, oh, I'm not strong enough yet. It's like, well, do the fucking thing and you'll get stronger.
Yeah.
Like, you don't, it's that classic, oh, I'm not going to go to the gym. I'm going to get fitter first before going to the gym. It's like, that makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
And I do get where people come from. They maybe feel a little bit insecure. They don't feel comfortable. It's like, well, find a training partner. Go to a gym like Taylor's or anywhere else. I'm just plugging Taylor's because we're biased, but find a specialized gym, especially a private gym, where you will be looked after. Like, they will hold your hand through it and make sure that you are comfortable. I do understand big commercial gyms can be quite daunting for people, but like you say, what we saw and what we've seen throughout this whole process is that anyone can and should get into this.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to turn pro. That's not going to happen. But it doesn't mean you can't enjoy the sport for what it is and have a laugh with it and meet cool people who, will definitely change the way you view yourself and view the sport. There was another good point you made there, and I've just kind of I've forgotten it completely, which has annoyed me because I was going to give my take on it. But yeah, it's definitely cool to see such a young guy who seems so professional. Whenever you see him at big comps, he always seems very confident, very sure of himself, and this is definitely a good thing with sports and strength sports, that it does give you that kind of maturity to know when to give it your all, when to hold back. I think competing teaches you that. If people don't compete, they never learn, and you just think you've got to just go hard all the time. You've always got to be maxing out. It's like competing, even at a lower level, teaches you can't do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that's definitely valuable for a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, like fucking I'm prime example of that. Like me, I've competed four times in strongman now, and like for me, that's 100% taught me that if you fucking max out week in week out, you're gonna be fucked on comp, and it's absolutely worthless doing. Yeah, great, you've got this new PB, but you're fucked on the comp day. You've got this new PB that you're going to be made up with, but you're going to beat in a couple of months anyway. It's fruitless. Mm-hmm. Whereas you go to a comp you can do really well at, and the confidence you get from that is fucking exponentially higher than what you'd get from that PB.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's not to say that there's not a time and a place to go for gym PBs. There absolutely is. They're great. Let you know how you're progressing. But if you have a comp coming up, I think this is definitely a time to throttle back a little bit and focus on putting your best performance out on comp day. And again, this is something that all the guys and girls with Rhiannon coming up, everyone doing these feats of strength, that is what they will have done. Like, if you want to learn how to prep for a show, a lot of the guys nowadays, especially a lot of the guys are using YouTube to kind of vlog their comp preps. If you want to see how the pros do it, just go on YouTube, just follow a few guys or girls and see when they push, when they pull back, what they're doing with their nutrition, how they're getting people to kind of look after them the week of the comp. I mean, we joked earlier that we can't necessarily do what some of the pros do and have everybody like cook our meals for us and wipe our asses for us, but I know competition day, I don't know about you, but I definitely like to delegate a few things out, and if it's a big comp, I like to kind of be looked after a little bit.
Yeah.
Smaller comps, you absolutely can't do that. I've done comps last November, competed, and not only like the day before was I handling Kim in her comp, coaching her and helping some of the other girls out. On my competition day, I had two of my clients in the same weight class as me. So we were all competing at the same time. And then I had Rich, one of the other guys, in the next flight. So, running around everywhere. So small comps, you're not necessarily going to have that. But I would say bigger comps, if you can, take someone with you and just let them look after the little things. Like just making sure you're fed and hydrated and stuff like that. So I think that is definitely one tip I would give out to people if they can. Don't go to comps alone. Be looked after a little bit at competition day just because you want to focus on what you're doing. And this is maybe one of the, if you had to pick like 3 best lessons to learn from the pros, what would they be? Because that would be one of my top 3.
Yeah, that's easily the top 3 you go with is, add 100% have a decent handler, decent support network around you. Don't train like a knobhead. And
nice way of putting it, yeah.
And yeah, just be fucking sensible, really. Like, like you say, all you've got to do is go on YouTube and follow a couple of these guys or girls, and same with Instagram. You'll see their day-to-day shit on there. Do that, and you'll learn. Like, you'll learn that going 8,000 miles an hour, training session after training session, is neither sustainable, wise, nor fucking big or clever. Like, you don't look good doing it, so don't fucking do it.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing to do is not listen to that advice. Fuck up. Because it will happen eventually. There'll be people who get away with it for a little while. It's like, and then they go, okay, well, the rules don't apply to me. They do. They really do. That will bite you on the ass eventually. And then you will learn, and, maybe some people need to go through that. They need to have this happen where they turn up and have a poor performance. Can you imagine if 2 days before this event, Alexi had gone, "Oh, I'm not sure. I feel a bit weak today. I need to go and take that 100-kilo dumbbell. I need to hit some reps just to make sure it's there." It's like, no, that's not how it works. Like, give yourself the time to recover and just go all out on the day. And that's definitely what it looks like he did. Maybe, we don't know. Maybe he was a dickhead, and he just got away with it because he's young. He's young and he's strong and he's very focused and determined. And I don't think he did that. I think he was sensible. He seems quite mature. He's just got to learn to not compete every weekend.
Yeah,
and we could be looking at another top competitor in the next few years. He's already top 10. I think he'll be top 5 within another couple of years, and then top 3.
Yeah, agreed.
If he can stay healthy by the time he's 30, I'd be very surprised if he's not won at least one major competition. I'm talking either Arnold Classic, maybe not Arnold Classic. I think that's a bit of a outside shot for him, just because you've got some of the guys who are a little bit more statically strong and a little bit heavier. That is going to go in their favour for Arnold's, but WSM, he's got a very good shot of. I think by in the next few years, I'd be very surprised if he hasn't won at least one of those, if not both, by the time he's 30, if he can stay healthy. That is.
Yeah, agreed. So I guess, like, speaking of top competitors, it leads us nicely to our Rhiannon predictions. So obviously she's got the stone lift coming up. Mm-hmm. So I know the lead up is a 141 stone, a 151, then the 161 is the world record.
Mm-hmm.
I also know that recently she's had them changed, so it's Atlas Endurance again that provided the stones. I think they originally got sent 17-inch ones. She's now requested 19-inch, so they've got 19-inch ones now.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, so the 17-inch were within the WUSH rules, but she wanted 19s, so she's got 19s now, which is fucking even more impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite possible that they were, like with the dumbbell, they were given ranges. So as long as the stone was between 17 and 19 or 17 and 20, then that's fine, because obviously we know that when it comes to making stones, it is common practice to kind of use inserts or use foam inserts or heavier lead inserts to change the weight of a stone so that you can use the same diameter mold. That is quite interesting because, I mean, I'm not 100% sure of her height off the top of my head, but I know she's not ridiculously tall.
No, I think she's just shorter than me, only just.
I mean, okay, so she is
If I
quite
remember
short.
rightly. I was too ill on the day to pay attention.
Yeah. But that's very interesting going for a slightly bigger stone. I mean, we know that smaller stone, it's like this weird kind of too small. It's a bit more of a faff to get it off the floor and into your lap. A little bit, again, it can be more awkward to load. Too big, and then you've got the same problem. It's hard to, you want that sweet spot. So if 19 is where she's comfortable, then I guess that makes sense. It's just it's a little surprising, a 19-inch stone. That's not a small stone. So I'm wondering why. I'm curious the reason behind it, but that would be my guess. Is she's used to training with those.
But then again, it might be something we find out on the day, and I think that again is something that's going to be really good. I hope that they do the same with Rhiannon that they've done with everyone else. Is gets a bit on a background because especially for female lifters, like she should be like such an inspiration to all. Like she's only young, I think she's 21, 22. She's not that old. And she's done some amazing things already. She holds the deadlift world record. She holds the axle world record. She's an absolute fucking unit of a human.
Powerhouse.
And, and if you want, whatever it is, if you want to, go far in powerlifting, go far in strongwoman, whatever, like she should be the benchmark you look at because she's fucking incredible. And she's obviously only local being up in Preston. So, it'd be really nice if they do. I'd be shocked if they didn't do the same, especially fucking with obviously the big thing we were speaking about is equality. If they don't do the same with that, there's going to be fucking uproar. So, but no, I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely.
I think she's certainly got the record. It's a record she wants, and we've learned from the past if she wants a record, she'll fucking get it. So simple.
Yeah, one way or another, she will figure out a way of doing it. Whether it is with Rhiannon, and again, she's someone who really benefits from a big psych up and almost just sheer stubbornness. Yeah. Like that stone is going over one way or another. I'm assuming the height will still be 48 inches.
I'd have thought so. Maybe it's a bit shorter. I don't know, but yeah, 161 for a fucking. She's not that. She's kilos. Like
very light. She is not ridiculous. A big girl. Yeah. Which again, we've seen the same thing with strong woman that we've seen with strong man, where athletes just seem to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then we've got a few girls coming through. Chloe Brennan again comes to mind, who's very small, very, very strong. Again, she excels at the technical lift. Again, she's a very good dumbbell presser. Rhiannon is just a freak. Her statically, she is a freak. I would liken her a lot to the likes of Eddie Hall. But she can also move. So she definitely has. I mean, what hasn't she done in strongwoman already? But she has a very bright future ahead of her still. Again, if she can stay healthy and injury free and all this kind of stuff. 161 kilo. I think this is ridiculous. The point that was made on the Tom Stoltman stream on that record was, early days of Atlas Stones being in WSM, you'd be looking at 140 being the heaviest stone. And now we've got Rhiannon going for 161 kilos. It's fucking ridiculous. We've both attempted a 140 stone and struggled a lot with that because we are manlets, but I don't think we can use our height as an excuse for that anymore.
Nope.
I mean, we've seen this with Tom. A big wingspan definitely helps with getting the stone off the floor and into the lap. But, you know, I'm not trying to say if Rhiannon can do it, we can do it, because it's not true. She is also a lot stronger than both of us. So it definitely means, though, that we can kind of mentally stop using that as an excuse.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think this is again a really good reason for having these feats of strength, is it kind of shows us what is humanly possible. And once the bar is raised on one thing, you start to see a lot more people are able to do it. We saw this with the 500 kilo deadlift. You know, that was obscene. Nobody thought this was possible. And then once one person does it, a few people are starting to take attempts at it, and it won't be long until that is not a barrier that is impossible to do anymore. We saw this with the 4 minute mile. You know, once that fell, it was deemed impossible. Nobody could run a mile in under 4 minutes. You would die. You would just, your lungs would give out and you would die. And then as soon as it was done, within a year or two, it had been broken multiple times. So these feats of strength really does let us know what is humanly possible. We know now that if Rhiannon gets this 161 kilo at the stone, okay, it can be done. So there is absolutely no reason why people can't look at that and go, okay, I can do that.
Exactly.
You know, it might take a bit longer than it's taken Rhiannon to get there for other people, for mere mortals. Same with some of the other lifts, but every time a record falls, I think it lets us know that it can be replicated, it can be done. So I think this is a valid point, and obviously for us, we're not going to be looking at Tom, for example, doing a 286 stone and thinking, right, we can do that. That's not going to happen. But what we can do is look at guys who are a bit more around our height, age, you know, all that kind of stuff, and go, okay, that's what they can do. We have that potential to go there. Now, the pros, they do have certain advantages that we don't have in terms of, let's say, supplementation.
Yeah,
we'll put it that way. But that's not to say that, okay, if you go down that route, you don't have, you know, you have that potential also.
exactly.
So I think it is important to look at the people who are around your height, weight, all that kind of stuff. You know, the guys that we should be looking at, for example, guys like Darren Sadler, Rob Kearney, the guys under 6 foot. So that would be my advice to a lot of the guys listening to this, or girls listening to this. Find the people that you look up to who are as close to your build as possible. Use them as an example and fucking go for it. And this doesn't matter how old you are. You know, if you're watching this and you're in your 40s and you're thinking, oh, I could never get into doing powerlifting or strongman, go find some who are competing or have competed in your age category and just see what is out there, see what is possible. Find some heroes to look up to and just fucking go for it, because I think this is our message when it comes to strongman, isn't it? That it's for everyone.
Yeah.
You know, I've remembered what point I was going to make earlier. You were talking about the weight that he had with all the faffing around, all the fanning about. This happens a lot in competitions. You know, shit goes wrong. Now, I've not seen as many things happen in powerlifting as I have strongman competitions where things can go wrong, but it is not up to you in a competition when you lift. When your name is called, you go and you do the thing. So I think there is definitely a lesson to be learned in terms of training. Sometimes it could be worth giving, you know, saying to your training partner, okay, give me a random amount of time and then just tell me to go. Or using a timer, and when the timer says go, you go. You don't wait until you are quote unquote ready. But yeah, watching the stream yesterday, we could see that there were some hiccups, and this can happen in competition. You know, for some reason, a referee might decide that an implement is no good, or a platform is no good. You know, we've seen platforms fail, and athletes like end up with a divot in the platform, and you know, it's then up to the refs whether or not you carry on at that platform or you have to move to a different platform. Shit can go wrong. You know, we've had competitions where you're told that an implement is going to be a certain weight for a certain amount of time, and then you turn up on the day and they go, actually, you're going to be using 10 kilos heavier, 20 kilos heavier. And people can kind of get a bit upset by this, and the answer is always it's strongman. Everyone is in the same boat as you. It's the same rules for everyone. It's not just you. Either be strong enough to do it or don't. You know, I think this is something that, you know, a lot of a lot of powerlifters can be a little bit precious about this, where it's like, if it's not, you know, if the bar's not a certain spec or you know, made by a certain manufacturer, it's like, oh fuck, I can't lift on this, I can't lift on that, I can't use that squat rack or those plates or, you know, whatever. And it's like, okay, get a grip. Like, it might affect you a little bit, but if you're only training, if it's not competition, who gives a fuck anyway? It definitely, I think everybody who does powerlifting should give it, you know, give at least one strongman comp a go just to get that experience. And if you're going to go into a strongman comp, go in expecting that shit might change on the fly.
Yeah. And there we go.
Ready.
We have found the title of the video. This is the tough shit and deal with it episode.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
There we go. But now, man, thank you again for your time. We will
My pleasure.
again same time next week to obviously discuss Rhiannon's stone lift. I look forward to it. I shall see you.
Yeah. See you then.
See you then, dude. Beautiful.
Happy days.
Fantastic news.
Oh.
I will reconvene with you on Messenger and then, yeah, get this out.
Yeah. Are we waiting until after all the feats of strength before doing more general topics, or do you want to?
We'll probably still do some general topics at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of like the bite-sized ones, it'll keep being just about this for now.
Yeah, no worries. Just let me know times and places and whatnot. Well, places were limited, but you know,
yeah,
dates and times.
I'm with you, man. Cool. Right, I'm gonna get some breakfast. I'm fucking starving.
Yeah, same. Adios.
Adios, man.